risk shouldn't be a competitive differentiator. People will say, if we get ISO 42001 certified, or if we are 27001 certified, we can put that on our trust site and we can say, we know what we're doing. Our AI is safe.
Welcome to Pivoting to Technology Adoption. I'm your host, Donna P. Mitchell, the Transformation Authority. Every week, I sit down with executives, strategists, and innovators to tackle the one problem no one's solving: why 70% of technology transformations fail. Let's pivot. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Pivoting to Web3 podcast. And today we have Paul Crafer from Assessed Intelligence. Now, Paul brings extensive expertise to his role as Vice President of Services EMEA at Assessed Intelligence. He draws on 2 decades of experience in business development and global technology and business service organizations, including over 10 years in leadership positions at Apple. He made a strategic pivot to AI governance and policy in 2023 and reflects a deep commitment to advancing responsible innovation and contributing to meaningful technology and social services. Paul has completed extensive coursework in governance, politics, philosophy, and policy of artificial intelligence technologies at a range of European universities. In August 2024, he joined ForHumanity, where he earned certifications as a ForHumanity certified auditor in the EU, AI Act, and GDPR, and AAA Cybersecurity, and additionally qualified as a trained expert in risk management framework. This is a lot of information, y'all, but I'm reading this to everybody because there is so much to his background and ForHumanity. He's looking at me like, is that really me? Is this you? Is this you, Paul?
Yeah, well, I guess so, yeah. I'm thinking about the context. Every time you mention something that I've done, I'm thinking, oh yeah, but I did that because that was important, and I did that because that was important.
You've done a lot. Why don't you
I'm keen to share that.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit more about ForHumanity as a fellow? Because I'm also seeing here the development of independent audit frameworks, which we're really going to talk about today, and market operationalization for ForHumanity initiatives, advancement of the organization's mission in global South regions such as West Africa, presented at First Pan-African AI Summit in Accra, Ghana, September 2025. But the most important thing that you're working on right now is Arise. The Arise framework is really why we scheduled this today, because it just launched recently. So give us a little bit of background about you, the schools you went to, so people understand what I was trying to say.
Sure.
At the end of the day, I want you to meet Paul. He's been here before, and he's given us a lot of great information about AI governance and ForHumanity. So, Paul, take it away. Say hello to your audience and ours.
Hi, Donna, and hi, Donna's audience of the Pivoting to Web 3.0 podcast. Pleasure to be back. Yeah, you were spot on. I've kind of gone round the houses a little bit in Sweden from an education perspective. When I left my previous employer in 2023, really searching for a purpose. And then it took me about a year just kind of caring for myself and doing a lot of training and just, I did things like painted fences and clean pools. I was living in Mallorca, so it was actually quite a nice life. And then kind of found that purpose, which was to start studying, and it was around ethics. And that was at Edinburgh International Business School, which is actually a course given on Coursera. So it's available to everyone, but it was a great start. And then I went to Jönköping International Business School and did a short course there on accelerating AI adoption, because it felt like I felt like, okay, I'm studying the ethics, but what I really want to be in is I want to be in AI adoption. I want to be looking at how that happens. And that course at Jönköping University, it wasn't a long course. It wasn't an intensive course. It was just something that I could really kind of get into some of the theories behind human capital management and change management and leadership around AI and AI introduction. I went back a year later and gave a lecture for that course 1 year after I'd been on it.
Oh, wow.
Naveed, who is the professor who organizes that course, invited me back, and I gave a lecture 1 year later. And hopefully he might invite me back this year as well. So after that, I then joined ForHumanity, and I kind of stumbled into ForHumanity because I was listening to Reed Blackman's podcast on ethics, and the executive director Ryan Carrier was on there, and I thought, well, that sounds interesting. And Mike McCarthy, who's a fellow there, welcomed me in and kind of showed me around figuratively. And that's what I do now. When I know people sign up to join ForHumanity, I offer to show them around, to show them all of the Slack channels, the working groups, the weekly calls, the resources, the training, the projects that are ongoing. So it feels like you're just kind of continually building the community. And we're over 3,000 volunteers worldwide working on dozens of compliance, governance, risk management, bias, regional data protection schemes. And there's just so much going on. And then I wanted to go into some politics. So I did 2 courses at Malmo University, and that was really interesting. And I wrote a paper there at Malmo University about DeepSeek R1 being a Sputnik moment. Mark Andreessen at Andreessen Horowitz, he said that DeepSeek R1 was a Sputnik moment, referring back to the 57 launch of the satellite. Right. So I wrote a paper, not long, 3,000 words, on how DeepSeek R1 was this Sputnik moment, and then how that reflected on governance from a kind of a binary or bipolar perspective, which is it's the US and China, and their conflicting kind of agendas and their cultural mindsets behind what they want to see out of governance for AI. And then after that, what I did after that, and then I did a course at Gothenburg University on research for technology. And now, just recently, I started a philosophy of AI course at Umeå University. And Umeå University has a very well-known policy lab run by Professor Virginie Dinham, who's very well known on the kind of responsible AI circuit, a pioneer. She's a professor of responsible AI, and she has this fantastic team working in the AI policy lab. I haven't been up there, I haven't visited. I would certainly, love to do some work with them. But I mean, you should go check it out. They've got one thing that I recommend to everyone. It's called Start with Question Zero. And it's that process you should go through to really understand, why are we taking this decision on AI? Why do we even want to go down that route? What's our use case? Is it the right decision? Are we choosing the right solution? So it's a good kind of way of validating and analyzing, are we making the right decision from a business perspective as to AI? But this philosophy course is super hard. I'm into I've done 2 short essays and 1 long essay, and writing from a philosophy perspective it's the hardest thing I've ever done. It's so difficult. So hope I pass.
I'm sure you pass, and I'm sure you have a lot of great information that you can share to everyone who's adopting AI right now. But I really want to take a look at a RISE framework, because lately we've talked a lot about the failure of technology adoption due to not the technology. It is the change management piece, the people side. And there's a gap on the governance side. Matter of fact, there's a few gaps going on. Could you give us some insight on the ARISE framework and why it is so important in today's marketplace and going forward? I'm putting a lot in that question, but the main piece is the ARISE framework. Can you walk us through that, what it is exactly?
Yeah, happy to do so. I mean, you're right. It's not necessarily the technology. Nevertheless, we do see situations like the revenue agency in Canada, amongst others, that are putting in place the wrong type of AI solution, or they're not being due diligent enough about the solution they're putting in place, or people just aren't they're not governing their platforms enough. If we look at Grok's, these non-consensual sexualization tools that are coming out on Grok, people call them nudify apps, right? So in those cases, the technology is the wrong stuff. But of course, the technology wouldn't be there on Grok, and it wouldn't have been deployed by the Canadian Revenue Agency if somebody hadn't been thinking about what they were doing or taking some level of accountability. And that's part of the challenge, is that there is a diffusion of responsibility. And that's kind of part of what drives Arise and drives the value of Arise, and that it's putting people into a place of governing responsibly so that they can continue to roll out solutions or to innovate as they want in their business. It's You didn't mention it, but I'm sure your audience will know it's actually freely available. The Arise framework is it's an online platform. It's available at www.ariseframework.com. All you need is an email to get access. It's been a bit of a labor of love for our CEO, Josh Carpino. He saw the need for kind of harmonizing a lot of these different areas, a lot of these kind of disparate areas of governance and compliance. So he started to think about this, and then he brought on myself and a few other people from ForHumanity back in May onto assessed intelligence, and that's when things really took off, and the platform started to evolve, and it is hand mapped, which in this day and age of LLMs,
what does that mean? Yeah, what does that mean to those that are listening?
Well, I think a lot of people when they see tools that come out nowadays, especially from a framework perspective, are thinking, that was thrown together by an LLM, right? Take what you know, pop it into a RAG overlay, give it some kind of guardrails and instructions, and see what pops out. The Arise framework is hand map. You take ISO 42001 or 27001, you take ForHumanity's AAA cybersecurity certification scheme, which runs to over 200 pages of audit criteria. You might take another cybersecurity scheme, and then you map the intent. If you're looking through ISO, they don't tell you that you have to do X or have to do Y. They say you should do X or you should do Y. Sure, there are some normative, pass this or don't pass this, but you have to interpret the intent in the clause in order to see where that maps into the audit criteria from ForHumanity. Right? So you can't just dump 42001 and ForHumanity into an LLM and say, match them up and spit out some context. You have to go through it one by one to find the controls and to see the best of each clause, annex control if we're talking ISO, ForHumanity audit criteria if we're talking ForHumanity, maybe the best pillar if we're talking NIST, right? You've got map, measure, manage, govern. So where do they fit in from a risk management perspective or from a cybersecurity perspective? So it's hand mapped. It's not a generated framework, which means that we know where things are in that framework, and we know where things are from the point of view of, okay, if you're in the foundational zone of starting your AI governance journey, then we can hand pick the foundational controls you should be thinking about and present them to you. If you're in the kind of the operationalization period of your AI governance journey, let's say you're in strategic planning or you're getting to kind of framework implementation, then we've got a section that says, okay, now you're on the implementation path. These are the controls that you really should be thinking about. Or let's say you're a little bit more mature, you now want to do a validate, you want to do an exercise around how good are we? Can we prove how good we are? Do we have the evidence to meet pre-audit services? We can pick those controls. So it's because it's hand map and because it's so well known, then it kind of feeds into what we do as an organization at Assessed Intelligence, is to deliver value. And people ask us, why did you make this free? And will it always be free? Because it's publicly available. And you mentioned earlier that I did a risk management framework at ForHumanity. We were starting a regulatory sandbox with a multinational called Abbey at ForHumanity. And that regulatory sandbox was to take them from start to finish through Article 9 of the EU AI Act, which demands a lot from organizations. It's not impossible, but it certainly demands a lot. So we were going to take them through over a period of about 12 weeks, the full Article 9 and enable their compliance with everything within Article 9 that they needed to comply with. And the risk management framework training from ForHumanity, which is about 8 weeks, I think, maybe 6, that then was the kind of the basis for doing that regulatory sandbox. Now, one of the things I learned doing that training and then doing that sandbox with Abby was that risk shouldn't be a competitive differentiator. You shouldn't, I almost spoke some Swedish to you then. Misunderstand me correctly, as they would say in Swedish. Missförstå mig rätt. Misunderstand me correctly. People will say, if we get ISO 42001 certified, or if we are 27001 certified, we can put that on our trust site and we can say, we know what we're doing. Our AI is safe. 42001 won't get you through to comply with the EU AI Act. It won't get you through Article 9, but that's fine. It has its own benefits. But risk shouldn't be a competitive differentiator. People shouldn't be deciding that they're going to take more risk on people's lives, in people's, with the products that they're using from your company. Risk should always be something that we all stand up for and we make sure that we mitigate as much as possible. It's a shared responsibility. So the industry needs these types of frameworks, these types of common frameworks that we can all kind of join around to kind of unify how we govern, how we make things secure, safe, and assured. And that's why Arise is free.
So my question to you is, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but I had to ask you this before you explained something even further. So for those executives and people listening that have technology that they're either thinking about, talking about, or already have implemented, and it's already going off the rails, what is the conversation that should be taking place in C-suite? What is the conversation that gets them to the point where we need to bring this person in, or where is our cybersecurity? But cybersecurity may not have it all because there's another gap. Who are the people that should be in the room from the beginning so you don't have a crisis bubbling underneath? And then you've got a whole organization that's in crisis mode that they're trying to save because the AI wasn't audited and they didn't start at the right place. Can you paint a picture on what the right place looks like, or who the people are that should be in the room in the conversation? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Did I make sense?
Yeah, we're talking about organizations that know they've taken on an AI solution, or they've had an AI solution come in from the bottom up.
Or they're thinking about it now. That's who's listening to this podcast. They're thinking about it.
Yeah, there's probably guaranteed that there's some.
And everybody is stressed. They don't know what to do,
C-suite.
who to talk to. The CEO wants it done. Everybody trying to keep their job or make it look like they part of the game. They got the mindset, everything's marching right along, but nobody really knows what they're doing and they scared to death.
Yeah, you're not wrong. There's some executive leaders watching this now thinking, okay, how do we make this decision? What do we do next? I imagine somewhere within that enterprise that executive leader is overseeing or is working in, someone is already using AI in that company, and it's come in from the bottom up. In the same way that, and my previous employer was a technology provider, and they really changed the game when it came to which phones were being used in corporations, right? They really changed the game. And prior to them turning up, it was BlackBerry, and then suddenly everybody wanted what we were selling. And that became a BYOD question. And companies weren't ready for it because they'd have people coming to work using one phone that they wanted to have and then using the phone that they had to have. And eventually the phone they wanted to have started having the stuff on that the phone they should have had.
I remember that.
Right. And it became a BYOD, bring your own device, and then it became a CYOD, COYD, corporate owned your device. Right? Now, AI can work the same way. The problem is that AI, you can go out and you can sign up for a service for an LLM without any contracted terms for what? $10 a month, $20 a month. You can do it on your credit card. So there's going to be AI in those businesses. Or let's say you've got Salesforce in your business and Salesforce has pushed out an AI update and people are just toggling it on and then feeding it data. Or it's getting access to your CRM system to devise decks, messages, emails, responses, updates, those kind of things, right? So the executives watching should know that, okay, the first thing you've got to do is get everybody in the room who can go out and find what's already being used. And you can do that from a technical perspective, or you can do that from a policy perspective. You can start tracking the shadow AI that's in your business. And, or at the same time, you can make sure you've got all of the different functional heads talking to their departments to try and identify who's spending money on this on a corporate credit card, who's using it, not to go out and try and, hunt them down, but to at least bring some level of awareness up. If you haven't got an acceptable use policy in your business, you've got to start there. If AI isn't factored into your data privacy policy, you've got to start there. So if AI is not even built into your cybersecurity oversight, then you've got to be thinking about, okay, so what new threats does AI bring to cybersecurity, right? So it's all the functional heads, it's the business unit heads, it's the people that know their staff, their teams, that can go out and ask those questions, that can put policies in place. And then it's an awareness piece. So you've got to have the learning and development team come in, and they need to put together some kind of training, an AI literacy training. And that can go from anything to, do you know what not to do with AI? To, do you know how to play with the settings in AI? And everything in between, right? Because some of these LLMs on some of these platforms, you can actually go in and change the temperature. And if you bring the temperature right down, it'll just spit out pretty much the same answer every single time.
What do you mean by change the temperature? Someone listening to that, what does that mean, change the temperature?
Temperature is a setting, is a feature within an LLM, within a language model.
Okay.
And the lower the temperature, the less probabilistic it becomes, the more deterministic it becomes. So the same input gets the same output because it essentially goes the same way through the neural network. It follows the same route through the neural network and therefore has pretty much the same output. Now, large language models, when they're delivered over the web, whatever you might be using, have a kind of a setting that is not too low, because if it's really low and you're just getting the same response every time, no one's going to use it. But they don't have it too high. You push the temperature too high, it just starts going wild and gibberish and giving you complete rubbish, right? A bit like me, someone's pushed my temperature up. So what I'm saying is the AI literacy piece, some people in the business just need to know what they shouldn't be doing with it. And some people in the business will want to know, well, how can I get the most out of it? How can I maximize what we're doing with it? So it's the learning and development team can do that. They can put together an AI literacy training and make sure that people have a good understanding as to what they can do and what they can't do with AI.
So, boy, this was a good conversation. I better get to a couple of things because we're almost going to be out of time.
Wow.
You're doing some work globally, but I want to go to the work that you're doing in West Africa and Nigeria. And I like some insight on the financial inclusion in Nigeria and West Africa, and what are some of the emerging markets that, European, Asian, East Asian, South Asia, that whole area, North Africa. Can you give us some insight on what's happening there and what ForHumanity and Assessed Intelligence is doing in that global region? Because it seems like y'all are getting quite busy.
Yeah, happy to. I'll say right from the start, Assessed Intelligence is one of the few global ForHumanity licensees, which means is that we have the right, just as we do and use it within our ARISE framework, we have multiple certification schemes mapped in ARISE. We can also use those resources and those schemes in other countries. For example, Ghana, Dubai, Nigeria. Now, specifically, the financial inclusion work in Nigeria started as a conversation about ForHumanity with a partner in Nigeria called the Responsible AI Governance Initiative, headed up by Mr. Mohammed Janiel. They're based in Abuja. And we started having a conversation. Can we build a partnership between ForHumanity and the Responsible AI Governance Initiative to start drafting a certification scheme on the Nigerian Data Protection Act, which was updated in 2023. And then in 2025, they issued some implementation directives, which kind of goes hand in hand with the Data Protection Act. So we started that work, but at the same time, they introduced, we were applying for a United Nations Development Program lab or cohort, which is called the AI Trust and Safety Reimagination Lab. And we were one of 16 organizations that submitted, we were one of, over 70 organizations that submitted projects, one of 16 that were chosen, and our project was on financial inclusion. Now, specifically, it's on devising financial inclusion personas that you can layer into anti-money laundering and counter financial terrorism pipelines used by financial institutions to reduce the amount of false positives where people are flagged as being a risk. Right? Now, if you think about it, there's 1.3 billion people that are unbanked or underbanked globally, which means they don't have access to financial services like pension, they can't accumulate wealth, they can't have economic resilience for climate issues, for sickness, for loss of work, for war, for conflict, for whatever it might be. They might have to sell what they inherited, like maybe livestock or land, in order to just kind of carry on living. So it's a kind of a circle of people not being able to have those human rights to build, to accumulate, to improve their lives of their family and their community. And one of the reasons is that global anti-fraud within anti-money laundering and counter-financial terrorism, those automated systems exclude them, because those automated systems aren't trained to understand that people in different countries and different communities and different lines of work use money differently, right? So that's the goal of the Financial Inclusion Project. And we just recently this month agreed with the Nigerian government on a strategic partnership. So it's the Presidential Committee for Financial Inclusion of the Republic of Nigeria. It's the Responsible AI Governance Initiative, and it's Assessed Intelligence. Together, we're going to be rolling out this project. And right now, we're kind of planning for a press release in February. And then we're doing a workshop with stakeholders in the State House, the Presidential Villa, in April. And then we're going to be launching the project at the She's Included really big event in Nigeria in June.
Oh my goodness, this is really exciting, because at the end of the day, what really intrigued me about blockchain and how I came into pivoting to Web3 is when I learned that the underbanked, the unbanked, those with no identity, and the ecosystem or lack thereof for those that are underprivileged is really what drove me to start learning more on what blockchain could do. What could all these different Web3 apps and cryptocurrencies and why they existed, and just how this all happened. I found it very intriguing. So what I'd like to do is you and I stay in touch. And as you all advance your endeavors in these areas, always feel free to let us know so we can stay up to date or provide some additional exposure on what's going on in these areas. I think it would be very important from a society and for humanity, because I've always loved that name, that we, continue this work. And as you know, I'm very intrigued in the ethics, bias, morals, and just overall governance and minimizing risk and cybersecurity, and coming into that space with you guiding me.
Mm.
I did register. And I looked at those times. I'm supposed to be back at it in January, so I better get on top of it. Before we actually close, and I know we talked about what are some of the needs? Who's your client? Who do you want to work with? Who should reach out to you? And what do you need at this point? Where are you guys at? What's happening? Tell us about
Yeah,
that.
thanks. Um, I mean, our mission is to create secure, ethical, and equitable adoption of technology. And that equitable piece is what's kind of driving the mission in Nigeria. That's something we're doing. I mean, we are a for-profit organization, but hopefully when that project gets up and running, we're going to hand it off to our non-profit that we've set up under Lindsay Washburn, who's been working with that for quite some time. That's called the Secure and Responsible Technology Lab. So once we get the project up and running, we want to hand it over to a non-profit. So right now, from a funding perspective, to support the work we're doing in Nigeria, we're looking for corporate sponsors, financial service providers that might be working in or around Nigeria or West Africa, or philanthropic funds, investment funds, VCs, anyone who kind of wants to be part of a financial inclusion project with the Nigerian government. And it's not going to, it's a pilot in Nigeria. It's just as easy to take that model and drop it into Ghana or East India or Latin America, Central America, the East Coast of the United States, Birmingham, UK. I haven't done much research about Birmingham, so I'm not sure about that one. But you know what I mean? It's a model, it's a federated learning model that we feel, could benefit people all over the world. That's on the financial inclusion part. Where we're operating as assessed intelligence with Arise is we're operating where the cost of failure is the highest, right? So kind of critical industries, those industries that are where the if you get it wrong, people get hurt, right? So we're talking public administration, financial services, energy, healthcare, defense tech. We've got a lot of people that started this company that are ex-service veterans, Green Berets, intelligence people. So our defense tech piece is very strong, and those are the areas that we want to work in. And because we've got cybersecurity as kind of the foundation, that's the background that Josh comes from as a CISO. And then we've got all of these really intelligent people who've been doing cybersecurity for years. And then we've got the people from my side that have come in to do AI governance. We're kind of one of the first organizations that really pulls that together. And now we've got the Arise framework. So I would say any organization that wants to get up and running with 42001 or comply with the EU and work with us using the Arise framework, or wants to support or sponsor some of the work that we're doing in Africa. And it's not just Nigeria, we're also going to be doing projects in Ghana in the future. And we've got something building in Dubai. So it's those types of organizations. It's a kind of a mixed bag right now, but that kind of gives you an idea.
Well, it gives us a lot of great ideas, and I hope this has been helpful to the audience. What else would you like to share that we're not thinking about that we should be thinking about in the future? What do you think about that question?
Yeah.
Where do you see us in 3 to 5 years, and what really concerns you? I usually do the good, the bad, and the ugly. What do you see happening in the future, or what is it you see really concerning you that you thought would have been handled already?
Okay, so all right, apart from the geopolitical situation, which of course is a concern, and the instability of it all, from a governance perspective, I just think that I really hope that the EU doesn't back down, because I think this thematic discussion that regulation hampers innovation. I'm sorry, but that's a line that's been fed to us by the technocrats. We cannot believe it. Regulation, you can act responsibly and innovate boldly. In fact, they go together. You can do the right thing and do it as a leader and do it as a market leader and first to market and do it well and build your business around it. You just need the right hand holding you and guiding you along the way, or the nudge in the back, right? So I really hope the EU steps up and says, no, we're going to stick to this. This is what we stand for, and the EU AI Act is going to live on, just as GDPR hopefully will live on in its current form. The other thing I think about is it might happen, and I'm not safe harbor, I don't know. It might happen that somebody at some point in the not too distant future says we've hit AGI, artificial general intelligence. Now, Sam Altman has been saying since 2014, 2016, we need to get to AGI first because we'll be the responsible ones to do it. And that has been
what's AGI, in case somebody doesn't know?
Artificial general intelligence. That is artificial intelligence operating at the same level of generalization capability as humans.
Okay.
When we get to artificial superintelligence, that's when the artificial intelligence is far exceeding our capabilities. Artificial superintelligence might be a fiction, but artificial general intelligence, somebody might say that that's happened. Do not panic. Right? Do not think, okay, the end is nigh. Don't rush out and buy it. Do your homework. Talk to experts. Do LinkedIn courses. Do Coursera courses. Sign up at your local college or university. Educate yourself about what is the grounding for artificial intelligence. Because when somebody says that AGI is here, they're probably just trying to make a buck. They're probably just trying to stimulate the market to make some extra money, right? So just be wary of that. Don't take things on face value.
So now what if somebody wants to contact you or assess intelligence? What's the preferred communication?
You can reach me through LinkedIn. I love being messaged on LinkedIn. That's absolutely fine. You can reach me at paul.c, first initial of my surname, at assessedintelligence.com, paul.c at assessedintelligence.com. You can go to assessedintelligence.com and contact us through there. You can go to the ariseframework.com and contact us through there. Or join ForHumanity at forhumanity.center, get involved, and contact me through the Slack community. So there's no reason not to contact me.
That's true. And I really appreciate your time, you contacting Pivoting to Web3 podcast. And I look forward to having you back. I hope you do come back.
It's always a pleasure talking to you, Donna. Always a pleasure.
Yes, this has really been fabulous and a lot of insights. I've learned a lot myself. So thank you so much. And thank you for listening to Pivoting to Web3. We're shaping tomorrow together.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Pivoting to Technology Adoption. If this episode gave you something to think about, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a colleague who needs to hear it. My new book, Pivoting to Technology Adoption, Mind the Gap, is available now on Amazon. Visit pivotingportal.com to work with me directly. I'm Donna P. Mitchell, the Transformation Authority. Until next time, mind the gap.